Hello, everybody. Thanks for piling in. Uh, Welcome to the first episode of the Phoenix Response. We are super excited to get into this. We're super excited. We've been working on this stuff literally tirelessly for weeks now. So we are super excited to get into this and to um, be able to share a lot of this with you guys because oh, thank you, pizza. Thank you very much. We're super excited to get into all this. So, Elle, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So obviously my name's Elle. Um, I don't stream or anything, so I won't have like any stuff linked, so don't worry about that. Um, but this is basically a podcast that Syren wanted to start. It was Syren's idea, and talking to her one day randomly, she was like, "Would you be interested in joining me on it?" Because we'd had some private conversations about our experiences growing up and whatnot, and found that for everything we had kind of in common, we also had a lot sort of opposite. And our experiences really, although they were quite divergent, they led us to a very similar place, which we both thought was quite interesting. So that's kind of the start of things, I guess. Um, did you want to talk more about what your intentions are with this moving forward and where you want to take it from here?
Yeah, for sure. So, my intentions really going into the Phoenix response is I am a person that has grown up in a setting where it was kind of hard to talk about a lot of difficult things. Thank you, Major. And where it wasn't as safe of a space as it could have been to talk about things, and that led to a lot of me being very confused about some of the things about myself, being very hesitant to delve into certain aspects of myself, and I really feel like that affected me a lot. So essentially, my intentions going in were I wanted to make a show where everybody was comfortable talking about whatever they wanted. I want to talk about the things that aren't talked about. I want to talk about like tonight, we're going to be talking a lot about mental health. We're going to be talking a lot about our history with mental health and how we were introduced to it in our lives and how we kind of came to um, the conclusions that we have now about it and how that's shaped us as people.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about literally everyone else or everything else that nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, lots of topics that are
Yeah,
kind of parallel to mental health because it does affect everything in your life, of course. It
absolutely.
kind of touches on every aspect of it. And the reality is, with something like mental health, it's so evolving and dynamic. And even when you're doing well, you're still focused on that aspect of it because
Yeah,
everybody's kind of on this roller coaster. And you have your highs and you have your lows. And sometimes the lows just get a little bit too much.
I
But
agree.
you learn a lot from it. And, in those moments where it's too much, you find that it does affect everything. And Siren and I are the same age. So that does play into it a little bit as well. We're both working
Mm-hmm.
adults who have had other responsibilities when we struggled as well. And um, it's just kind of, I think it's something everyone can relate to, even if they don't really realize it. So there's a lot of
Absolutely.
topics that we want to eventually touch on that might seem sort of irrelevant at first, and then you realize it actually plays so much into your well-being and your mental health.
Yeah.
Um, did you want to dive into the name a little bit, discuss how we came to that conclusion, or you
Yeah.
want me to get started with that?
Absolutely. So we spent I honestly do not know how many hours we have put into the name, the emblem, and the overlay alone.
Yeah,
Entirely too many is the best answer that I
it
can
was
give.
fun.
It was a lot of fun. It really was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I really think that my favorite part was coming up with the name
Hmm.
because we had gone through a lot of things. I think Siren and the Creep was one of the
I
one
really
of the
like that
podcast
one.
names. I love it. I love it. Loved it.
A little off-putting though.
That was one of the names that we were joking about in our delusions after 3 hours of searching.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to keep like a mystic feel to it as far as we want to keep it to where there's a sense of mystery and where there's a lot to be learned about it. So the
Yeah.
phoenix to us was very important in that because phoenixes go through stages of dying and being reborn from ashes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we both really agree that in our lives and in everybody's life, whenever you become the person that you're trying to achieve, you really do have to go through these stages of rebirth with yourself. And you really
Yeah.
do have to uh, really like tune into all kinds of things that just make you who you are.
And
And
things that are very uncomfortable, periods of
yes,
transition. Yeah,
yeah,
in order to grow.
absolutely,
Yeah. We're looking
absolutely,
at a couple different like mythical creatures just because I think that fits Siren's theme, especially with the mermaids. Um, and we ultimately settled on the phoenix because we felt like it did represent that sort of rebirth period of life that
yeah,
everybody does go through in different
for sure,
amounts. Sometimes it's a really great fiery rebirth, and sometimes it's kind of a small little, growing from an uncomfortable situation.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think it's pretty cool. We did decide on calling it the Phoenix Response in particular. We were talking about like energy and all those kinds of words, and I felt like response was a good word because it's sort of reactive.
yeah,
It's not like a passive force. It's a reaction to something that has impacted you. So that's where the idea comes from, and I think we all sort of do unironically have that phoenix response to things. Sometimes it doesn't get you where you want to be, but it's certainly a way forward when you're facing challenges.
mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
absolutely agree. Yeah, so it
Also,
was
we wanted to
super fun.
mention, sorry, we wanted to mention that this is like very organic and sort of ever evolving.
Yeah,
So, you know, where things might change, don't be alarmed. We're just kind of keeping it very flowy and we want to see how things progress.
yeah,
And that's
for
all.
sure. Also, it's going to be super interesting because neither me or Elle are the type of people to just get on camera and talk about ourselves for the longest time.
No,
So,
just from experience with like interviewing and whatnot. So if I seem kind of stiff, that's probably why. That's
yeah,
my extent of my camera experience is being like,
yeah,
yes, sir.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
very interesting. I'm super
Yeah.
excited to get into this though. Do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can. So our goal with this episode is basically just to start by discussing a little bit about each of our backgrounds and sort of, like I said, how we evolved and came to this place we are now, which is a pretty similar place and in a different route to get there, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So just in a general nutshell, I might be talking about some things that are kind of like triggering for people. I don't want to obviously trigger anybody that's going through something or has gone through something. I'm going to be talking a little bit about like suicidal thoughts and some other sort of behaviors and situations that might bother people. So I just wanted to throw that out there really quick. And also, just in general, my everybody has their way of coping. My coping mechanism is laughing. So if I talk about something really fucked up and I start laughing, please know that it's literally just like how I cope. That's all. That's it. I'm not laughing at it because I think it's funny. That's my journey. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
separate those things out if they bother you. Um, what else? There's one more disclaimer I wanted to say.
I mean, we're gonna
These things
just in general, we're gonna be talking about a lot of things that like are very
are
sensitive
tough.
topics for a lot of people. But we want to
Yeah.
be very like authentic, and we want to show people that like there are a lot of people that are going through things that really um, they're not comfortable with bringing that kind of stuff up, and they're not comfortable with talking about that kind of stuff. So we want to show people that they're not alone in that, and
Right.
that we can go. We've been through so many things and
Yeah.
that we've overcome them. So we want to be very genuine, as genuine as possible as we can with talking about all of this kind of stuff. So there are going to be some very sensitive topics that we cover.
Yeah. And if at any point it's too much, it's not a problem. Like, take a break or whatever you need to
Yeah,
do because
absolutely.
it can get heavy.
Yeah,
But I do try to keep it lighthearted because these things, been a long time since I've been through most of them. So I have distance myself. So it's not going to be like super taxing on me, at least. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I have, if you see me looking down, I have like a little list to keep me on track here. So, for me, I actually started having like signs of mental health issues when I was very young, like way too young for any adult to recognize those as symptoms. I always had rampant OCD. And OCD is the biggest thing that I'm going to be probably discussing during the course of this podcast from a personal perspective. I feel very strongly about this condition. Um, it's something that is grossly misunderstood by even people who have it. Like, it's a very misdiagnosed, um, like badly explained condition, and there's a lot of facets to it, and it truly does impact every single aspect of your life, like
Yeah.
undoubtedly, no matter how minor it might seem. So, just like generally, I remember as a kid, like I should not have been watching this. I was watching like True Life or something, some stupid show,
Do you
and they were
remember
talking about
Live
OCD.
Live Leak, whatever it was called?
I don't. I didn't watch a lot of these shows. I don't know why
No,
I was
no.
watching
Live
it. I
Leak
was
is
like
not. It
7 years
was not a
old.
show. It
Oh,
was it was a website. That don't that was a bad website. That
girl,
was
I
a
had dial
very
up.
no. That was a very bad website that showed you things that
Oh
people
no.
should not see ever in their life that I
Okay.
frequently watch. So,
No, I did not have a lot of internet access growing up, at least. Not until I was like a teenager, I would say. But
it's probably good.
it is good. I agree. I was a little bit sheltered though, which is kind of
Yeah, me too.
bad in a different way. But yeah, I was watching some stupid show about this person who had OCD, and they had like the like germophobic OCD where they wash their hands and wear gloves, and they're very, very severe, like debilitated. And there were a couple things that they mentioned in that episode that as a child, I was literally like 7, 8, maybe. I was so
Mm-hmm.
young. I remember sitting on the edge of my mom's waterbed because old, first of all. Miss that waterbed every day.
Yeah,
Um,
things
and
are
I
great.
had things were great back then, man.
Yeah.
Um, I had the one that I first remember, my first panic attack. I was literally like 7 years old. This is nothing I could never have explained that to somebody. I didn't know that what was happening to me. I just remember feeling really scared and my blood was like ice and I couldn't calm down. I was hyperventilating and I just felt like a weirdo. I remember feeling like, "Oh my God, I do some of these things and like this is a condition. Like this person has a TV crew following them because they're weird and people watch it and I'm watching this and that's me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's me. Like I couldn't separate them. Although I was never like germophobic to that extent, but OCD kind of crosses over in a lot of ways. A lot of counting and touching things a certain way.
Yeah,
That
for
was
sure.
more my thing. I always counted my steps. I always counted my steps. And I still to this day I have a thing about like touching things a certain way. Um, it's kind of quirky now, but like when I was younger and developed anxiety, it became absolutely debilitating. So again, just like way too young to be having these
Mm-hmm.
issues because they went unnoticed. And although there were kind of multiple red flags, especially in the time that we grew up, like mental health was not even a thing people talked about. You would still get bullied in school if you talked about like depression or anything. Like
Yeah.
it was not a thing. Um, so then kind of moving forward, uh, after 10th grade, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was the transition between elementary and middle school, which is always rough as it is. Like that's first of all, middle school is terrible. I
Yeah.
hated
No,
middle school so
middle school is
much.
miserable.
Oh my
I feel like
god, it
middle
was my
school
first
is
experience being
like
bullied.
the point where kids are actually like really developing their own diverse personalities.
Yes.
And
For the
some
worse.
of them
Just kidding.
some of them are for the worse and some of them are for the better and
Preteens are rotten.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Oh my god, it was
Yes.
miserable.
Yes. And we all hate
God.
ourselves as preteens and teenagers. Okay, just to be
Yes.
clear, like we don't just hate on them, we hated ourselves.
Yeah.
So um but yeah, between that kind of transition period over the summer, my father, who had been sort of in and out of my life because my parents were divorced, he pieced out. He said, "Bye." I'm not associating with you anymore. And that was hard.
Yeah, for sure.
um a weird situation to go from already kind of having a like every other weekend custody parent just
Mm-hmm.
piece out and decide that you're kind of dead to him for a little while at least.
Yeah.
Um and obviously like as a kid I didn't process that immediately. I just remember my parents having like this huge fight and then dad just disappeared and I was like, huh, I don't really like him anyway. At that point, I didn't like him. Um I guess that's fine. And then, once I got into middle school, classes got harder. Man, they got really hard. I started getting bad grades. I was like
Yeah.
a 4.0 student in elementary school. I started getting bad grades. My teachers got really mean because I was in like sort of the what's the word? The smart class, I guess. We kind of had like the British
The
system for some
not
reason in
the
middle
not the
school.
gifted class, whatever the opposite of that one is.
I
The
don't
gifted
know,
class
but
is the class that they told the people that needed extra help that they're like, it's okay, you're just
right.
gifted.
Right,
Not
no,
that
no.
one.
I
The
was in the
other
smarty
one.
smarts. Yeah.
Opposite of that.
I didn't know that. It's just because of my grades from elementary school, but I clearly was not meant to be there because I struggled so badly. And then, and during the course of middle school, I say middle school was really rough for a couple of reasons. My first experience getting bullied, which is, I think everybody gets bullied to some extent. Doesn't matter whether you're, you know, nobody talks to you or you're super popular or anything in between. Like everybody gets picked on. So I'm not gonna sit here and say my experience was like super bad because it really wasn't. It really wasn't. But I was a very sensitive kid.
Yeah.
I'm sensitive. I feel everything. That's a Kendrick Lamar quote. You're welcome. He's also a Gemini. Thank you. Um, I love him. So I know it's so random. Don't worry about it.
I
Metallica
love it. No,
shirt
I
and then
love it. It's
Kendrick
great.
Lamar. It's fine.
It's great.
So during the course of that time, I think around like 12th grade. So dad said bye, and then my neighbor died. My neighbor was kind of like a father figure to me and my brother. I have an older brother, my only sibling, and he kind of stepped in when my father pieced out.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a dual loss at that point.
Mm-hmm.
He had a very tragic death. It was extremely unexpected. He was in his 40s. It was an asthma attack.
Wow.
And I remember as a kid, like, this is kind of unrelated, but just in general, because I realize now as an adult why I struggled with it. As a kid, I got really angry at myself because I couldn't process it and I didn't feel sad.
Yeah.
And I got so mad at myself that I ripped apart my bedroom. Like, I was not an angry child. I didn't have like outbursts. I wasn't violent. I didn't have any of this. I was very shy and like introverted and kind of demure.
Mm-hmm.
But as I experienced that loss, and I remember my mother telling me about it and everything, and I couldn't like cry. And I felt like that was the only acceptable response to losing someone you loved. I didn't understand why I wasn't feeling sad, so I got angry. And I think that's an important thing to mention because sometimes I feel like we don't really explain that territory with children. Kind of that, and yes, I'm calling 12-year-olds children because they are.
They are
Um,
children.
Stop acting like
100%.
teenagers in general are adults. I hate that. Like they are still kids. Treat them as kids, not
Yes.
in a like a patronizing way, but
Yes.
in a
In
they're
a
still
they
learning
still
how to be
have,
a person.
yeah, absolutely. They're still
Yes.
learning how to be a human being, a functioning human in society.
Yes. Absolutely. And obviously now like I wish someone had sat me down and been like, "Danielle, it's okay. Like you don't have to feel sad. You're going to take some time to process. Everybody feels differently about things."
Yeah.
And, now as an adult, I think about him and I cry,
Yeah.
ironically. But just an aside, let's
Mhm.
stop, you know, well, not let's stop. Let's start normalizing like having these difficult conversations
Yeah.
with kids.
Yeah.
Instead of just letting them run off and try to process it on their own.
Absolutely.
Uh, but yeah, that happened, so it's kind of like a double loss. And then what really sealed the deal for me, think of it, yeah, I'm already an anxious kid. I got this OCD thing. I gotta touch shit. I'm counting my footsteps. I'm just constantly like on edge all the time, all the time. I'm super shy. I hate talking to people. I'm scared of everybody. Attachment issues, just galore. Just the
Yep.
poster child of attachment issues. Okay,
Oh yeah.
and then the only person in my life who has like some stability and that I actually like trust with myself and my love, my mother, had a cancer scare. And that happened right after my neighbor died. So that series of events completely unraveled me. I lost my goddamn mind. I was 13, and I remember sitting in my mom's car in her grand minivan, 1995, just like me.
Absolutely. I think my
And I
grandparents
sat,
had one of those.
oh, it was the best car. I learned to
It
drive in that
was.
car, so I can drive anything. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Um, I sat in the front seat and I cried. And I remember this is again a little triggering here, but I remember making a promise with myself at 13, mind you. This was not influenced by media or music or TV. This nothing. Just my own brain being very sick. I made a promise with myself that if anything happened to my mom, because of course I catastrophized the whole thing, catastrophized, whatever the word is. I
Yeah.
always say it wrong. Um, that she was gonna die. That's
Yeah.
all I could think about. And that's all she could think about too, to be fair. She was a single parent, 2 kids. We don't have a big family. There's no one else that really could have taken us in. My aunt has 4 kids of her own that are our
Yeah.
age. So like that was the only option, logically, for me.
Well, I
And
mean, I feel like that's a trauma response. Like
yeah.
that's what your brain like does. Whenever your brain is like not wired correctly, like
Mm.
that kind of stuff, the small things are blown out of proportion. But that just means that the
Yes.
big things are blown even further out of proportion. Like a
Yes.
hundred percent. So
Yeah.
like kids in general, like we don't know, they don't know how to control their emotions. Like
No.
they're learning. They're trying
I
to
got a whole
learn.
other conversation about that.
Yeah, they're trying to like learn how
Yeah.
these big emotions. They have such big emotions
Yeah.
that they have no idea what they are or why
Hmm.
they're feeling them. And if people don't teach them what they are or that they're okay, then they start to see that like other adults do the whole like just suck it up. And then
Right.
they start doing that.
Which
And
is
then
not a
they start
child
to
behavior that's okay.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
no, because then they start internalizing it and then they start
Hmm.
shutting down. And then any
Yep.
big emotion that comes their way, they're just going to internalize it.
Yep.
They're going to shut it down and they're going to lock it away until they are not doing, they're not okay. Until they're
Hmm.
really not okay. And it's so dangerous because those are
Hmm.
like slight things that like even me, like I have 2 nieces. So like growing like watching them grow up, I am very aware of like how I act around them and how I talk about like around them and
Yeah.
like what I instill in them because like the slightest thing that I say, I know that there are some things that my parents or like adults around me have said like that have stuck with me for years. And I have let me tell you how many memories I have in my childhood. Absolutely none. Absolutely
Same.
none at all. But
I don't have very
I
many.
remember very select, significant moments in my life.
The worst things?
Yes. I
Yes, I'm the
remember.
same. That is also a trauma response to
Yeah.
erase those memories. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for some reason you do hold on to the worst ones because your brain wants you to be prepared when it inevitably happens again, of course.
Exactly.
Right. I'm the
Exactly.
same way.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Totally.
it's very, very hard to talk about that kind of stuff with like
Hmm.
kids and stuff because it's the one wrong thing that you could say, man. Like
Sticks with
that could,
them.
yeah, it
Hmm.
absolutely sticks with them. The
Yeah, I used
negative
to
things
babysit my
stick
neighbors.
more
They
than the
stick
positive.
way more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember this one time I said something. I forget. She was such a rotten kid. Oh my God. Oh, oh God, if she was my kid, military school. I'm just kidding. Like The Sims. But I don't remember what
Lock
I
them in the
said to
pool.
her. In the pool, no
In The
ladder,
Sims.
immediately.
In The
Yeah.
Sims. In The Sims. In The Sims. Not in
In
real
The
life.
Sims.
In
Yes.
a video game.
Yes. Jesus.
Oh my god.
Um, I said some stupid thing to her. Something. I was so mad. And I just said, like, it wasn't mean at all. It was just you're being irrational or something like that. And this kid who's like tough, she pinched me, like she just was a big bully. Like literally by the age of 11, she was taller than me, being 10 years older than her. It's fine. And I remember her like bursting into tears and hiding from me and like repeating that, like shaking and repeating like I'm irrational. I'm irrational. Like she couldn't her response to that
Yeah.
absolutely threw me. Like I was like I've destroyed this child. I have done so
Yeah.
much. I should have just pinched her back. That was so much worse. be fair, I was like, I mean, she was probably 7. I was probably like 17 at the time. Not that that's an excuse, but
Yeah.
yeah. You'd be surprised what kind of sticks with kids, even
Yeah,
the thick-skinned
absolutely.
one. Yeah. Talk a lot
Absolutely.
about kids. I'm surprised. I don't usually talk about kids, but I do feel very passionately about them.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Um,
mean, they're the
in a
next
protective way.
generation. They're my kids are
Yeah.
gonna be the ones that choose my nursing home at some point, and I really would not like to have some
To
kind
wrong
of
them.
stone face stone faced children that have memories of their mother locking them in a pool with no ladder.
Yeah, well.
As they're like, should we pay for the fancy one that takes care of their people or this one?
Right.
Like, I got
Uh,
that's life security right there, man.
no, I got you. I understand. Yeah. Kids are important. And I think
Yes.
we all wish, which is inevitable. I think everybody in childhood at some point wishes that they had been treated different. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Absolutely.
Any person, even with the most perfect, you look at their upbringing and you're like, my God, I wish, I wish
Yeah.
I was you. And they'll always have something to say like that was not ideal. Because
Yeah.
parents are people, they're very much fallible, just like everybody else.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. So basically, that whole situation led me to like a very bad decline in my mental health. So I went from just being like an anxious, nervous, um, very introverted kid to a full-on depressed piece of shit. Like I literally could not have been in a worse place. By the time I reached high school,
Mm-hmm.
I was in therapy. 14, by the way, for anybody who's not from the States. High school's 14, at least where I live.
Yeah.
I was in therapy. I was I had a psychiatrist and I was on medication. Not only was on medication, I was on 3 different kinds of medication by the age of 15.
Yeah.
So I was on an anti-anxiety med. I was on, which was a PRN, which is as needed. Sorry, I'm a pharmacy tech, so if I use like medical language, please correct me so I can
We
put it
were
in
both in the
layman's
medical
terms.
field, so we're
Yeah, and
gonna have
I
to
don't want
cut
to
you
sound
chase.
like oh, this and that. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's like habit.
It is.
I was on a an antidepressant, of course, and I was on a mood stabilizer by a certain point because my doctor was worried that I was bipolar on top of everything. Um, I'm not going to go into like every single step of the way because it really doesn't matter at this point,
Mm-hmm.
right? But just know that my teenage years were lost essentially to uh, a sea of various, very intense medications that I was put on. I mean, if you count being put on a medication as being diagnosed, which is essentially what it is,
Mm-hmm.
I've been diagnosed with everything mental health wise short of schizophrenia. My doctor was throwing darts at the ball, trying to figure out what's gonna help. Nothing, apparently, because no matter what I was on, I still dropped out of high school. Ended a 2.5 year relationship with my boyfriend at the time, and I just continued to spiral. I just continued to spiral because what I realized as an adult when I kind of grew more as an individual and sort of found myself a bit more. And I met other people outside of my circle that had been with me, you know, which at that point I had like no friends, by the way, because nobody wants to be with you. You're depressed and you don't leave your house. Like, you know, nobody wants to be friends with you. Why
True
would
that.
they? That's what I told myself, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, when I started working is actually what really saved me because I met people outside of my family, outside of that circle that I went to school with the same kids my whole life. I grew up in the same house my whole life, believe it or not. And when I met people from very different backgrounds and different countries, especially, which is a passion of mine because it's a matter of perspective, and they brought
Yeah.
to me this perspective that I could never have gotten from the people who grew up in my hometown and were part of my family and knew me in school, and that sense of community and that sense of almost I know this sounds cliche, but like sort of being smaller than you feel like you are, and you
Yeah.
realize like, oh my god, the things that I'm upset about, like I'm embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting embarrassed. You know, it's a perspective thing, and I'm not saying that that just like instantly fixed me. It was nothing
Mm-hmm.
like that. Of course, that took
Yeah.
years of work, years of literally rerouting pathing
Rewiring.
in my brain. Yes, that
Mm-hmm.
you know, let's say I had a fight with my boyfriend. My knee jerk reaction was, "Oh, we're gonna break up," and I'm losing my mind. And I had to rewire that to be like, "We had a fight. Okay, we're gonna fix it." You
Yeah.
know. like that type of thing. And that reworking those pathways takes so much time and so much effort, and it's something that I feel like we should be kinder to ourselves about. It's easy for other people to look at you and say like, "Oh my God, you're reacting so XYZ. Like, why would you think this? Why would you do that? Why would you say that?" And it's not an excuse, but it is something to be aware of when you realize that like, okay, I've been doing this incorrectly for whatever reason. So that's kind of the growth process, I guess. My doctor told me at 15 that I would be on medication the rest of my life. I was off it by the time I was 21, and I've been off it since. And medication works for some people, and it doesn't for others. And in my case, what worked for me was sort of addressing those issues I had from childhood, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and really drilling down with myself. Therapy didn't help me. Therapy never helped me. They gave me a bunch of tools that worked when I was a kid, maybe a little, but it really took, I can't even express the amount of time and energy that I put into working on myself, first and foremost.
Yeah.
And it really is something I want to circle back around to all the time in this podcast because it's something that I don't think anybody should feel bad for,
Yeah.
you know, taking that
Absolutely.
time when you need it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Uh, I didn't really have like any super like I had some moments growing up that were like super tough. There wasn't any like one discerning moment really that for me like set that off like you were saying that there was like one really big like
Yeah, I had
time
a
in your
trigger.
life where that
It went
triggered
from
like
like a
so much.
situational thing to
Yeah.
a permanent thing I couldn't get out
Yeah.
of. Yeah. And that's not for everybody. That doesn't
Yeah.
always happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really have I feel like it was a lot of smaller things building up. Like
Hmm.
growing up, I mean, my parents were together until I was 13. Right before
The
that,
magic number.
yeah, I know, right? Lucky number 13, right?
Yeah.
Woohoo! Um, and actually, the year before that, so my dad was never really present in my life. Like, he was there, but and funny thing is, he's actually the one that got me into video games.
Oh,
He is actually the one that introduced me to video games. He had bought an Xbox, the original Xbox, and we would play Halo all fucking day together, nonstop. Which now I realize was definitely not good. Because then after the Xbox came the computer, and he was on the computer all day, every day.
mm.
He was never there. He like was there physically, but as far as like emotionally and supportive and everything like that, he wasn't. He was hiding money from my family so that he could spend money on what he wanted because he wanted to go out and play paintball all the time and he wanted to buy new guns and he wanted to do all this stuff and while we were having trouble getting food on the table. So it really hurt like and I didn't realize the extent of that like at the time. I knew that there was something wrong and I knew that he really wasn't there for me like my mom was, like in any sense. My mom was she tried very, very hard to be very supportive. But also, she was the breadwinner of the family. So she worked like 70 hours a week trying to pull in money to
Yeah.
just keep us on our feet because my
My mom was
dad
the same.
yeah because my dad
Yeah.
would spend it all. He would take all of his money. He'd lie about how much he had in his paychecks and everything, and he would go and spend it on whatever the fuck he wanted. Like he just didn't even care.
Mm.
And growing up with that, like I remember there were times where like my dad, like growing up, literally I was the mother of the house because my mom was always at work and my little sister is 6 years younger than me. So I always took
Mm.
care of my little sister. He would always be on the computer, on the Xbox, out playing paintball or whatever, and I would have to take care of Jordan. Like she was and still is my absolute world. Uh I love her to pieces. We had a point in our lives where like we were not like close at all, but like we've really come back together and we've really connected like spiritually and like as adults came together and talked a lot about our upbringing. And a lot of it was talking about our dad Like, she currently, I don't like to make contact with my dad because every time that I make contact with my dad, it feels very half-hearted, and it feels very like ingenuine, which I know that is not completely like true, but I know that I have come to him multiple times in the past, and throughout my life, and I have tried to like bring up all these problems that I had with him, and he would be dismissive, or he was unempathetic. I specifically remember a point in my life where I was very depressed, and I was really struggling because I really didn't feel like my dad was like, I really didn't feel like he cared for me. I really didn't feel like he was like, I really just didn't feel like he was there at all, emotionally, physically, like supportively, anything. Like, he just wasn't there. And so I tried to bring that up to him one time, and I remember vividly sitting on his couch and trying to open up to him, and I was sobbing because I had all these huge emotions that for so many years I had just suppressed and suppressed and suppressed, so I didn't know how to handle them. So it was an explosion of emotion that I was so scared about, because I was terrified, because I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's happening to me. Like, I literally went over this in my head, what I was going to say, and I can't even talk because I'm crying, because I don't have the experience to know what these emotions are and know like how to handle them. So, like, getting into it, I remember telling him like, I feel very hurt, I feel very upset, I feel very like, I don't know what's going on, but I know that you don't I don't feel like you love me. And that's literally what I said to him. And with a stone face, he looked back at me and he said, "Why do you think that?" With no emotion, with no empathy, no sympathy, nothing. Like, literally, I am sitting there sobbing on his couch, and he says, "Why do you think that?" After I just tried to pour my heart out to him. And I tried to explain it, but I couldn't. I just literally sat there and sobbed, because these
Yeah.
were such large emotions that I felt were just ripped out of my fucking chest. Because it wasn't an, "I'm really sorry that you feel that way. You know, like, why do you feel this way? Let's talk about this." It wasn't that. It was literally the most stone cold, like, stone faced, I don't give a fuck
Mm-hmm.
kind of response. And I remember that was the first time that I did have suicidal thoughts. I actually, like, genuinely was hearing voices. Like, I felt something shift in my brain that day, and I was genuinely hearing voices, like, telling me to off myself. And I was, uh, it was very hard, especially like going beyond that. Like, I was literally sitting in my room at his house crying for hours, and the only time he had ever came in to check on me was to tell me the dinner was ready. He peeked in, told me dinner was ready, and then I told him to go away because I was still crying. Like, he hadn't come to check on me that entire time. I literally ran away from him crying as a child. And mind you, I had to have been 14, 15 when this happened. So these are like critical points in my life where like my emotions like are shaping who I am as a person.
Yes.
And to go through this, like, I was so depressed that I just didn't know what to do. So after I went home to my mom's, I had told her like what happened. Because I had told her I was going to talk with him. I told her I was going to try and like open up to him, because my mom was super supportive of that. She's like, "I want you to have a relationship with your dad if you can."
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted that too at the time. And so she was very supportive of like, this you should definitely go talk to him. And so whenever I came back and I told her what happened, um she immediately called him furious, like, saying, "Your daughter is literally fucking suicidal because of what you are doing to her." And the only response that he had back to that is he called me later that night and with the same emotionless voice that he had before, he said, "Why would you do that? Like, why would you kill yourself? That's stupid." Like, I just didn't even know what to say. I really didn't even know what to say. And to be completely honest with you, that's where my memory cuts off of that. Because I just remember, like, the pit and the just, like, I seriously felt like my chest was ripped to shreds. Because all of these emotions were, like, forcing their way out, and I was trying to process them, and he just didn't care. And every single time I tried to explain these emotions to him, he would just meet with me with the same, like, don't give a fuck attitude about it. And that's the way he did my entire, like, upbringing. Like, he clearly favored my little sister to me. He clearly, uh, like, put more effort in with her than he did with me. And after all of that, like, I didn't want to go to his house. I didn't want to go see him. We had the whole, like, every other weekend visits, whatever.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go see him. But my little sister was begging me to go with her. She literally was begging me to go with her because she didn't want to go alone. But she was young enough, like, so she's 6 years younger than me. I'm 14, 15 whenever this is happening. She's 8 and 9. So she doesn't understand really what's happening. She just understands that, like, Sean is, like, hurting me. And that I don't like him. It is, oh my god, that scared me. Oh my god, thank you, Kay. Oh, that actually genuinely, like, jump scared me for a second there. Oh, thank you, Kay. Welcome. I hope your stream went well. We're talking about some super intense stuff right now, so that was a great time to pop in. Great little relief there for a minute. Oh, I'm glad that I wasn't the only one. Yeah, it was really great. Like, the effort that my mom put into it was amazing. And thank you, Major. Major redeemed hydrate. I need to take a drink.
Yeah.
Yes.
My strawberry lemonade.
I have my bedazzled water bottle here.
Oh, you don't know bedazzled until you see my old coworker's desk. She hand bedazzled everything on that desk.
Oh my god.
The stapler, anything that wasn't like the company property, everything was like crystal bedazzled. It was very scarring for me. I don't want to talk about it.
That's amazing.
I don't know why I brought it up. And she offered to bedazzle my phone case for me.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kate. I really do appreciate you guys jumping in. We are, yeah, absolutely. This has been very fun, actually, talking about this kind of stuff. But yeah, jumping back to where I was. Yeah, so, like, my dad really just wasn't there throughout my entire life, and, like, I know that had a very significant effect, especially with, like, it wasn't just that one time that I tried to talk to him about things. I had tried multiple times. I don't know if that was the first time. I don't know if that was the last time. I don't remember. I just remember that there are multiple times where I would try to talk to him. I know that there was one time where I didn't want to talk at the house because his wife was there and Jordan was there, and I was mad. I was furious at that point. I was beyond hurt. I was beyond like sad. Like, I was just furious. I was pissed. And I wanted to tell him that. And again, I was met with the same resistance every single time. He shows no emotion. He absolutely never showed any emotion, never showed any sympathy, never showed any, like, care to what I was saying. He really just didn't. He just didn't care. And so that shaped a lot of my life. And I know that definitely didn't help because, like, growing up, like, I knew that, like, my mind did not work like other people's, because I knew that, especially whenever, like, traumatic events happened, like whenever my grandpa passed away. My grandpa was my father figure. He passed away literally 6 months before my parents divorced. I actually specifically remember he passed away in, I think it was September of when I was 12, because I was so sad that he wasn't going to see me turn 13. because I wanted him to be there whenever I became a teenager. So like literally, my grandpa passes away when I'm 12, and at 13, like my parents go through this divorce, and then going through all of this, it just builds up with like I don't have a dad because
Mm-hmm.
my main father figure, like, he passed away, and my dad, like, he wasn't there. He really wasn't there.
Yeah. Essentially
And
absent.
yeah, he was essentially absent. And even when he was there physically, he was not there emotionally or
Mm-hmm.
anything else. So like it was really jarring, like all of that kind of stuff. And I just grew up knowing that my brain worked differently than others. So I was homeschooled up until the point where my parents divorced, when my mom couldn't homeschool me anymore, so I was put into public school. Whenever I got into public school, I was excelling. I was excelling at every single thing they put me in for about the first month. And then, after that first month, I flunked everything. I couldn't focus. Also, I didn't know that I was fucking blind at the time. So I just thought that it was normal that I can't see the whiteboard, so I don't know what people are talking about.
Oh my
That,
god.
yeah, no, I genuinely grew up like needing actual
Corrective
glasses.
lenses.
Yes, needing lenses, and I just never
Please get
did.
this girl some glasses.
I just
Oh
never
my
did.
god.
It
And you
was
probably sat in the back in
horrible.
all your classes because you were like new to
Yeah.
the school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I'd wait until
Damn.
after class, and then I'd
Bad.
sneak up to the front and like write down all of my notes that I needed. And my teachers eventually are like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm
That's
just
really
writing down
sad.
notes." But I was too scared. I didn't know that it wasn't normal that I couldn't see from the back of the classroom.
Oh no.
I literally remember like looking over at people's like desks and like writing down what their notes are because I couldn't see the whiteboard.
Dang.
So
They have those
I
old projectors too that they wrote on
yes.
and you couldn't read their handwriting because the marker
Yeah.
was too thick. Yeah, it's great.
Yes. Yes. Oh my god, it was miserable.
Yeah.
So like that on top of like me just like I would excel at everything. I'd learn everything like that. I am such a fast learner. I will humble brag
Mhm.
on myself. I'm such a fucking fast learner. Like in any job that I've got, in any like learning my streaming stuff, like literally
Mhm.
Asparagus last night was trying to help me with some stuff, and he told me how to do it once, and then after that I had to do it a couple more times, and like the third time after that he's like, "Oh, don't forget you gotta," he's like, "Oh, you already know." I was like, "Yeah, I learned it like the first time that you told me that." And so like learning, like I got that down packed. It's just not everything sticks.
Mhm.
And so like going through public school was really hard because I would learn everything so fast. And then I would just either forget it because I didn't care about it, or I would forget it because I have ADHD and I didn't know it at the time. And then I would fail, and I would fail every class. And I didn't understand why like school was so hard, and I didn't understand like why I was so different. I just knew that my brain worked differently. I actually got in trouble like multiple times with my math teachers because I'm really fucking good at math. Love math. Love numbers. Algebra is my favorite. Love algebra. I excel in numbers. And so like the way my brain works, like have you ever seen the meme where the lady has like all the math equations and she's standing there like,
Yes, but she looks confused and
yes.
afraid.
But
That was me
I
in
don't
math, not
look
you.
I don't look confused and afraid. I look like, yep, got it.
Oh my
Like
god,
that is
no.
how my brain works. Like
Where were you
I
when I had
will
statistics homework?
dude, literally like whenever I'm doing a math equation, like I'll look at the math equation and then I'll have like, all right, this answer's over here, and then like this answer's over here, and then like this one's over here, and then this one comes to this one, and like that's how my mind works. That's visually, mentally, visually, like that's how my mind works whenever I'm doing math.
Crazy.
And then I would just write down the
Could
immediate
never be me.
answer. And my math teachers always thought that I was fucking cheating. So they
Cheating,
would
yeah.
always call my mom saying, your daughter is cheating. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, no, she's not. And then they're like, yes, she is. And she's like, okay, well then have her do math right in front of you. And so
Have her
then they
do that
did.
math.
Yeah, they did. They would hover over me while I did math, and then I'd go ding, 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 and get every answer right. And they're like, what?
Math
How
teachers,
are you
man.
doing that?
I had issues with mine too throughout
Yeah.
school. They're
And
either like decrepit and like unreasonable at the best of times, or they're young and like they want to be fun, and that
yeah,
doesn't work for
it
me.
doesn't.
Okay.
No. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, that's how, like, my mind works with, like, some of that stuff. That's not everything. That's definitely not everything. My mind is a shoebox of the weirdest shit imaginable. But growing up, like, I didn't realize that. I thought that I was somewhat normal and I just didn't understand what normal, like, how to be normal. And I, like, really struggled in school because I didn't know how to make friends. I didn't know, like, I didn't know social cues. I didn't know any of this shit. And, so, like, it was really difficult. It was really difficult because I didn't know anything. And I was in a new city because I moved in with my dad. And, like, so I knew nobody. I literally was moved away from my hometown into a new school after I had been homeschooled for over 7 years. So I knew nothing. And it fucked me up so bad.
That's
I was
traumatic.
in I was in public school from 7th grade to ninth grade, and in ninth grade, I dropped out and I went back to homeschooling because I was dealing with a lot of bullying. I was dealing with a lot of bullying because of how I acted, like the way that my mind works, like was not the way everybody understood. So I didn't understand people. I didn't understand like anything, really. I was sheltered. I was so fucking sheltered. I was a little Christian sheltered kid. We see how well that worked out. Anyways,
Yeah.
so
That will be
like,
another topic.
yeah, another that's a topic for another day.
That is.
Yeah, but like it was so crazy to grow up living like that, and then like I really didn't look that far into like mental health or anything like that. For myself, like I knew I had depression. I absolutely knew I had depression. 100% knew that. I just thought that everything that was fucked up with my head was all like depression. Like I thought it was
Yeah.
all depression.
Same. And it
Yeah.
wasn't.
And it's not. It's not at all.
No.
It's not normal. None of it was
Yeah.
normal with depression. Like some of it was, but a lot of it really just wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me up until the age of 26. Mind you guys, I'm 27. It took me up until the age of 26 to realize that. And it took me up until the age of 26 to actually come forward to my family and say, I think I have ADHD. Like, I have been doing so much research. I've put so many hours of research into ADHD and, like, the symptoms and, like, the responses and everything like this. And I really didn't get that solid, like, yes, I definitely have ADHD until I started treating for ADHD. Like I started treating myself as if I had ADHD, started taking steps forward to like uh fix what was fucked up here if it was caused by ADHD. And everything was coming together. And
Mm.
for the first time in my life, I finally could see things clearly, and I could finally see things through actual like clear eyes. Like literally my life before I realized all of this stuff felt like I was looking through a piece of fogged glass. Like that's how bad my memory was. It's how bad like my mind was, and I still get that way sometimes. But
Mm-hmm.
like feeling like now I really feel like I am finally looking at the world through clear eyes because like I have figured out what the fuck's wrong with me and that it's not something that's wrong with me and that
Yeah.
it's not something that is hindering me by any means. Like my ADHD makes me the quickest fucking learner ever. I can learn anything that I need to, like on the spot, because of my ADHD. Granted, my ADHD also makes me forget those things just as fast as I learn them. But,
Very
but,
helpful.
like, yeah, it's very helpful. But, like, I know that my ADHD helps me with things. And I know that my ADHD is very, like, empowering in some aspects as well. Like, I feel like I see the world differently than other people because my mind is never fixated on one thing. It is
Mm-hmm.
always jumping to the next new thing and always like going 90 to nothing, which sometimes is exhausting. But like it helps me to see the world from a different perspective and it helps me to understand things differently. It allows me to, it really allows me to disassociate as well with things very easily, which is another trauma response that,
Yes,
I know
I'm
the
very familiar
ADHD.
with that one.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah.
that's a whole other topic. But
That we can
like,
definitely do a whole episode on that because I have a
100%.
lot of experience and a lot to talk
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
We will definitely have to do a whole episode on just like trauma, just in general.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Trauma
It's,
responses.
ugh, no joke.
Yeah.
So, like, going through all of that is very, like, eye opening. It's very eye opening. And I'm actually really excited to get to say I went on a little mini vacation for a few days before the podcast, which I set my intention before I left, and I said, this is going to be a spiritual retreat for me. I was like, there's going to be zero contact with the outside world. Like, literally, we have no signal, we have no service, no Wi Fi, nothing. We were out camping on my stepbrother's property out by a lake, and we had kayaks and we had like campfires and everything, and it was beautiful. And I am definitely gonna have to post like a gallery of some of the pictures that I got because they're absolutely beautiful. But like on that retreat, like I really was struggling to talk to my mom about some stuff because I know that I've had some, like, I love my mom to pieces. I really do. I've never been closer with my mom than I am today, and I know we've had some falling outs, but like we really over this weekend we really came together and we had a lot of time to like talk and everything. And I think what really hit was Tuesday night was the last night that I was out there, and we were all sitting around the campfire, and we were all drinking, so I was a little tipsy, but I finally kind of had mustered up the courage, I guess, to tell my mom, I'm really nervous going into this podcast. And she asked me why, and I said, well, because I want to share it with the family, which I have. I actually have shared this podcast link with my family. So, hello, if anyone's watching,
Yeah.
I
It's a huge
apologize in
deal.
advance. Yeah, but I actually told her, I was like, I'm going to be talking about a lot of hard things. And I'm going to be talking about growing up, like, with my situation and everything. I said, and I really don't want anybody, namely her, to feel very targeted with some of the stuff that I say. And she said, well, what do you mean? And I said, okay, well, I said, the last time we stood outside of my house and talked, I told you I had ADHD. And you were very surprised with like the way you reacted and like with the way that I was describing like how my mentality works and everything. And she goes, well, yeah, I knew you had ADHD. And I said, what? It's like, what do you mean? And she said, yeah, no, I've known that you had ADHD. And I was like, I was like, the time before we stood outside my house and talked, uh, you were very dismissive whenever I brought up the topic of ADHD. I said, you literally like shrugged me off and then kind of just dismissed the topic and just we went on our merry little ways. And she's like, no, that's why I homeschooled you. And I was like, what do you mean? And so she proceeded to tell me about how she homeschooled me all the way from either kindergarten or first grade because she knew that I had ADHD and she was trying to tell my teachers that, and they wouldn't listen to her. They told her that her child is not some gifted child that's going to be the next Einstein, because they thought that that's what she was trying to say. And she said, I am not trying to say that. She said, I am trying to say that my child, she learns things too fast and she gets bored.
Mm.
Like, and none of the teachers would listen to her. So she pulled me out of school and she homeschooled me. And I told her, I just kind of like, I was really taken aback at that because we had never talked about that before. And I told her, I was like, you knew that I had ADHD like my entire life? And she said, yeah. I was like, I was like, what? And she said, that's why I pulled you out to homeschool you. She goes, and that's why whenever I was homeschooling you, I always had to keep you challenged. Because you would learn something so fast and then you would get bored with it. So I always had to challenge you. And I was like, that's a lot to take in. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, because you never told me that. And she said, no, why would I have told you that? She said, I didn't want you to grow up living life with that stigma or that title
Mm.
above your head. And
I
I
feel like you're
said,
different than everyone.
I mean, I understand that. I said, but looking at it from a different perspective, I said, that fucked me over. I said, I literally grew up my entire life thinking that I was some fucking weirdo freak that didn't fit in anywhere because I didn't work the way that people did. And I didn't understand people and I didn't function like other people. And she's like, you know, was helping you with your ADHD. And I said, yeah. I said, you were at home. I said, and I don't want you to take this next point that I'm saying offensively or targeted at you. I said, because I know that you did what you could in that moment. I said, but you helped me at home and you fucked me over for the real world.
Mm.
I said, because you while you had continued challenging me and forcing me to grow in that aspect, I said, I never understood why I was so different from everyone else and why I didn't understand people and why I like genuinely just didn't work. I felt broken. I said people made fun of me in school and in life. I said that has affected my relationships. That has
Mm.
affected my friendships. I said because I didn't know what was going on with me mentally, I didn't know how to approach who I was growing as a person. And I did not know how to approach going into the real world with this because I was so like I was so lost. I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
I again just knew that I was different and that I didn't belong. I said, but I just didn't like you really fucked me over for the real world. And she goes, "Oh." She goes, "I really didn't think of it like that." So we
Yeah.
continued to talk a lot about that, um, like sitting around the campfire. And it was crazy. Like coming to that realization of, like, yeah, that's what happened. And
Yeah.
coming to the
Really validating
understanding.
though.
Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very.
You can see that you came from like a very controlled environment, not just like a sort of overprotective or anything, but very
Yeah.
controlled for your benefit. And then once you were forcibly pushed out of that environment,
Yeah.
you kind of fumbled and were like, okay, why is this so difficult all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would have been
Exactly.
helpful to know that.
Yeah. So it was very eye opening and like I told my mom, I was like, I just want you to know I'm talking about all of this stuff on the
Mm.
podcast. I was like, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat things. And if I say things that are gonna hurt some people's feelings, then I apologize. But I'm gonna be genuine
Same
with
for
how
me.
my side of things happened. You know, I'm like, maybe it happened differently for you. But I know in my side of things this is what happened, like based on my experiences. And so
Hmm.
like to come to that realization with her and to actually talk through that was very like eye opening. And it was my own Phoenix response,
Hmm.
actually, because that was really like we have a whole new relationship because of that. Like a whole new
Yeah.
understanding in our relationship because of that. So that's a whole other topic. Like relationships with people is going to be a totally
Yes.
different topic. Totally
Yeah,
different
we'll
episode.
definitely have a whole episode, maybe even more than one, dedicated to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Like dynamics with other people and how they're affected by things and people
For
that do and
sure.
don't understand
Yeah,
your situation. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So that kind of stuff was just like, man. And it's so like I know we've talked about it before, like just you and me, but it's so funny to think that like you and me grew up so differently.
Yeah.
Polar opposites of each other.
Hmm.
Like literally you grew up being over medicated and
Yes.
being treated for a illness and multiple illnesses that you didn't even have.
Yeah.
And that caused you to
That's a
suppress your
problem.
emotions and you literally had to learn how to be a human all over again.
Yeah. Once I was off everything, because I was on such heavy medications, I did experience like a couple of years of uh as silly as it sounds, learning how to feel and
Yeah.
learning how to process emotions, and um my reactions to everything were very volatile. Good things, bad things,
Mm-hmm.
neutral things. It was everything affected me so intensely.
Yeah.
Um and I felt like a toddler a lot of the time. I constantly
Yeah.
was overreacting to things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is similar though, right? Because we you felt that way because of being invalidated and being your emotional response was met with a complete lack of emotion constantly, which was
Mm-hmm.
very frustrating. It didn't teach you how to receive emotion or how to give emotion, and
Taught
so
me
I
how to
think
suppress it.
suppress it exactly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and your suppression was not voluntary but subconscious, and
Yeah.
mine was induced by medication
Yeah.
essentially. And pivotal, both of us around 15, yeah, so pivotal parts of your life where, like you said, you are building that emotional person, and that
Yeah.
plays into your personality and how you interact with people in your environment. And definitely was interesting when I
Mm-hmm.
talked to you about these things, because that's how we kind of found out that we do have a lot of similarities, even though the situations were so different.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, like the father stuff is
Yeah.
dads,
Dads.
man, strong
Shucks,
moms and
man.
dads. You know,
Oh
ugh,
man. Dads are
yeah,
dads are great. You're great,
dads are
Agathon.
hard.
You're great. You're a great dad, Agathon. You stay great dad.
Yes. Also, my father is in my life now. Just throwing that out there. He tried to escape. I didn't let him. That's a whole other topic.
Hey,
Yeah.
total opposites there. My dad's trying to get back into my life, and I'm saying, nah, I'm
Yeah.
cool
See,
with
there you
not.
go. Yeah. See,
Yeah,
I gotta keep these very intentional boundaries with him though.
yeah,
Because when I've kind of let him in too much, I always walk away from it feeling drained and feeling hurt. He has a very good knack of saying things that are so horrible to me
yeah,
without even thinking. I remember when I was in college, with my bachelor's, which I've put on hold for now, he completely invalidated my degree. Like, just, he literally looked at me. We were having lunch, and he brought it up. I didn't bring it up. I don't ask him for money, I don't ask him for things. He is, I love my father because he's my father,
yeah,
but he knows that he's a horrible father. He knows it. He'll tell you. So, and I'm an adult now. You know, I don't expect either of my parents to provide for me in ways.
yeah.
But we did have a conversation, and he said to me, well, you know, if you went to school to be like a nurse or a, Agathon, computer, IT, anything that my truck driver father could understand,
Yeah.
he was like, I would have helped you. I would have helped. I said, Dad, I've been in school for 6 years, footing the bill myself. You didn't even know what I was majoring in until just now. What do you
Oh
mean you would
my
have helped me? What are you
god.
talking about? It was so hurtful for
God.
him to just completely invalidate that. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like shit on this major. It's not like I was a a fine arts major or anything. Like
Yeah.
I was basically in international relations
Yeah.
and like diplomacy and development and whatnot. It was a very interesting program, and I was very interested in field work and research and blah blah blah. Anyway, uh, he just smashed that, just unprovoked.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny looking at it now, but I was very hurt by that conversation, and that's not the only time he's come in like that iron hammer to just, you know, remind me that he doesn't deserve to have me as a daughter.
You
And he
know
knows it.
shit.
I'm not saying anything he doesn't know. Just throwing that out there. Not that he'd ever see this, but
Dude, literally the last time that I tried to reconnect with my dad was actually whenever his dad passed away. My grandpa on my dad's side actually passed away in a house fire a couple years
oh my
ago,
god.
protecting the homeless woman that he had let live with him.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it was crazy. Um, but I was back home in Missouri for that, and
Missouri.
I in Missouri. I was back home
Every
in
time.
Missouri for that, and I we had the chance to go down and stay with him for a couple days, and me and my little sister did that, which was hilarious because oh my god, there was one night. This is totally like derailing just a little bit, but there
That's
was this
fine.
one night where the first night that we stayed there, we had tacos for dinner, and then after that uh, we went upstairs, and that was the guest bedroom. And me and my little sister were absolute children. Mind you, I'm 25 and she's 19 at the time. Like, we are adults. We are effectively adults. And we were sitting there fucking wrestling with the covers like I was pushing her off the bed. She is tiny. She is tiny, tiny. So we were like fighting over the covers, and we were like, I was pushing her off the bed and everything. And our dad actually came upstairs and goes, are you guys okay?
My
Like,
god.
apparently we were making so much noise, like laughing
You're
at
just
each
fighting.
other.
Oh.
That thank you for the gift of asparagus. Apparently we were making so much fun of each other, like just in general, that he actually got concerned.
Oh my
But
god.
yeah, it was hilarious.
Finally, he's concerned.
I know, right? He showed actual emotion for once, guys. Write this down.
He is
Write
a
this
father.
down.
Write this down. Put that away. Don't forget
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but then like the next morning we were sitting out on the porch, and at the time I was in a relationship with, it was a long distance relationship with my now ex-fiance. That was a whole other thing. We'll talk about that in the relationships episode.
Yes.
Um, but he was trying to like talk to me about it, and I was being, oh, thank you, Agathon. I was trying to be super like vague with things because I really wasn't comfortable telling him things, but he really wanted to know. And I it was a really awkward situation because me and him hadn't talked in years. He says that he tries to reach out, but oh my god, thank you guys for the gifted. Holy crap. Thank you guys for the hype train. You guys are amazing. Um yeah, but like it was really hard to try and talk to him because I really wasn't comfortable with telling him things because he said that he had tried to reach out multiple times, but I know every single time I'm with him, I tell him I don't have a phone plan. I don't have a phone plan, which means I only have like Messenger. Like Messenger is how I reach all of my people. And then I have this like texting app, like this Text Now app or whatever for like work. But if I'm away from Wi-Fi, like I have nothing. I don't ever respond to like actual text messages because I don't get them or I don't get them. And he says that he tries to reach out and he says that he tries to do this and he tries to do this. And every single time I remind him, don't have a phone plan. I don't use phone plans. I hate phones. They're very not great for my ADHD.
Sure.
And so it's one of those things where it's like, I know that I've told him multiple times, like, this is how you can contact me. This is exactly how you can contact me. And then still again, he always resorts to the whole like, oh well, I texted you your number,
Yeah.
and it's
The guilt
the
trip.
it's the 4306 number, right? And I'm like, you mean the number that I told you that I haven't had for years? Because my messenger's been the same for what, 15 or like 10 years now, 10, 12 years now. Messenger's still been the same. Facebook has still been the same. So it's very like discouraging because I know for a fact that I've told him things, and either he has bad memory and he doesn't know, or he just doesn't listen, or he just doesn't care to listen.
Mm.
And every time we are face to face, he pretends to care. And he just pretends that he's just so concerned with what's going on in my life. And I just like it's hard. It's really hard and frustrating because I'm like, I have tried so many times to let you in on what's going on in my life. And every time you have shat in my face with all of this. You've just spit in my face. And I'm just like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to just forget about everything? Like, I really tried. I've really been trying to do the whole forgive and forget thing, but I have too strong
Not
of
easy.
emotions
Yeah.
towards that situation. Like, my emotions are too strong to just
Yeah.
ignore. But I know that nothing that I ever do will make him ever apologize for anything he's done, because he doesn't think that he's done wrong.
Yeah.
Even to this day, doesn't think he's done
That's
wrong.
that's how my father is
Yeah.
with a lot of things. Yeah.
So it's very frustrating. Very
Yeah.
frustrating situation there.
Yeah, it's I think that's a something that I also would agree I haven't like properly come to terms with or been able to process as an adult even.
Mhm.
We're always growing though, you know.
Yeah.
Um but I definitely do struggle to let things go. And I have the very toxic trait, the actual toxic trait, not the joke, of cutting people off.
Yeah.
You're dead to me. I've done it a lot. I've done it with romantic people. I've done it with friends. I continue to, in fact,
Yeah.
people I've been friends with for a very long time.
Oh
You,
man. Yeah.
yikes! You fuck up one too many times, man. I don't need you in my life, and I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but I will say this about it because I feel like social media in general loves to inflate everything as being either heroic or terrible. There's no in
Yeah.
between. There's no neutrality with social cultural perceptions
Mhm.
of people's actions. Um, if in the moment and even thereafter, which is the case for so far every person I've done it with, by the way, if I feel better, it's the L show as far as I'm concerned. I
Yeah.
got me in mind. I'm who matters to me,
Yeah.
and I don't need to sacrifice my happiness for anybody else. And that's why I
Absolutely.
have boundaries with my father because he's my father and I need him in my life because he's my father. But anybody else, I don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
I don't owe you my time, my energy, my love, my
Yeah.
loyalty. I'm a very loyal friend. And I don't agree with that. Like, I agree that it's toxic for the person that I cut off.
Yeah.
Terrible. Oof, sorry for
Yeah.
you. But I feel great. Let me tell you, I feel so good. Because before I cut you off, if I cut someone off, you have to meet a certain amount of criteria.
Mhm.
And the criteria is as follows. Very simple. So, listen up. Every time I walk away from an interaction with you, do I feel worse? Yes? Okay, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's
Very
it.
simple.
Very simple. Very simple.
I feel like that's
Um,
something that people really don't take into take into effect either, like into account
yeah.
with anything. Like,
Yeah. Do you walk away from that interaction feeling worse? This is
yeah.
why I don't use social media. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I don't have a TikTok. I don't have a, what's it called? I don't use
TikTok.
Twitch. TikTok. I don't use any of these things because I know that every time I am on them, even for a moment, I 99 times out of 100, I would even say, I walk away from that feeling worse. not just like worse about myself, just in general. I just feel like icky. Somebody was, not kind to people, and
Yeah.
like things are just gross, and people are very materialistic and superficial, and it
Hmm.
doesn't align with any of my moral pillars. And it's not that I, only keep like minded people around me. That's absolutely not the case. I have people in my life who challenge everything I think and
Yeah.
feel constantly. It's actually
We
annoying
have
sometimes.
definitely challenged each other a lot
Yeah. Yeah.
in the
It's important.
it is. It absolutely is because I think I don't know how many times one of us comes to the other like, "Oh my god, look at this. Like I love this. I love this." And then the other's like, "Well, what
Yeah,
if
I
we
don't.
yeah, what if we did this
I love
instead?"
that too.
Like
Maybe not though.
literally
I love
up
that for
to the wire.
you.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like literally up to the wire. Like we've done the whole like, "Oh my god, look at this." And we're like, "Well, what if we do it slightly different?" Like
So as in change the whole thing. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. We've done that so much. And that's very
That's why I
important to
say it's
have.
organic and ever evolving.
Yes. That's
It is
very,
important to have
very important to have with your
open
people.
line of communication. Yeah.
Yeah,
All your people.
absolutely.
And the
Yeah.
people that you can have that with, it's okay. There will
Hmm.
always be boundaries with some people, and especially boundaries you can't control. And that's
Yeah.
okay. Like you can only control what is in your grip. Sometimes my camera doesn't see my hands. I'm always making like hand motions over here.
Very expression people.
I guess so. My boyfriend's Middle Eastern, so he's always like constantly. I half the time he doesn't even say anything. I just know he just looks at me a certain way. I'm like, okay, got it.
You're like this.
I'm
Sorry,
not
yeah,
kidding,
sorry, sorry,
by the
yeah,
way.
sorry.
Yeah, like literally his eyes. He just communicates with me. I'm like, got it, understood.
That is so great.
I
Oh
know.
my gosh.
Nonverbal communication is
Yes.
crucial.
Yeah.
Actually, that's another topic I want to explore. Not just in relationships, but in life.
Yeah.
I think nonverbal communication is something that a lot of people see as being strictly a like professional or uh what's the word, like for your job or for
Platonic.
your boss, for your occupation,
Yeah.
but your body language is everybody reads it, strangers, your
Yeah.
friends, everybody.
Absolutely.
You can say one thing, but your body language reads differently. People actually read that more most of the time
Yeah.
than what you say, especially people with trust issues.
Yay!
I care
Trust
more about your
issues,
body
trauma,
language and your tone of
ADHD.
voice.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Woo.
I feel like I'm a Power Ranger that's about to pop. Oh my
I want to be the red
god.
one. I
I
liked the
want to
red one the most.
be.
I don't know why.
I don't know. I always liked the yellow one.
I like the yellow
I
one
don't
too.
know why. I just always liked the yellow one. I think because she was different than the others. But
Was
like, no,
yellow a
I
girl?
totally. Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just
Yellow
remember
was
the
a
pink
girl.
one.
Yellow was a different girl. She
I didn't
wasn't
know
like
that.
as well known. Yeah. She wasn't as popular as the
Damn.
pink one by any means,
Right.
but
Because
she was still
pink,
pretty up there.
girl,
Yeah.
pink. No other color can be associated with girl.
Obviously.
Yeah. Obviously, you and I are
Like
both fans of
like the
pink.
Star War, like that white helmet. That's the only thing that can be associated with the Star War.
The stormtroop.
The stormtroop, the rain troopers,
Yes.
the rain troopers.
And the Darth.
Yes,
The
yes,
darkness.
yes. The darkness. But that's something that also like growing up with like all this past trauma and like ADHD and everything, like I am stupidly good at reading people.
Hmm.
Like to the point that I can literally sit and listen to someone talk for a little bit. And then after that, whenever we go to talk later, I'm just like, yeah, let's go over a couple things real fast. And then I could lay out like a whole paragraph and they're like,
Yeah.
"How the fuck do you know that?" And I'm like, "Oh, because
Because you're bullshitting me.
whenever you were doing this, your voice fluctuated just a little bit, which means you
Yeah.
weren't being entirely truthful. But
Hmm.
also whenever you were on camera, you rubbed your nose whenever you were saying something or like yeah, or like you
I got a
looked
nose
off
ring, man. Come
to the
on, don't
different
attack me like
way or
this.
anything. Like so I feel that nonverbal communication is a lot with people, especially people with
Yeah.
trust issues and trauma and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It means more most of the time, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like being able to understand somebody and like who they are as a person, like without actually sitting them down and talking is so crucial for me.
Yeah.
Because if
Also, I
I
know a lot of
don't
people that
like
don't
your
talk much.
energy, yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
for
some
sure.
people definitely don't. They're not very talkative. I never
Yeah,
used to be, and
yeah,
then I had a couple jobs that required me to be, so I kind of had to teach myself.
exactly. But
Yeah.
also, like, it's not even like there's different like aspects to it too. Like who we are, like sitting here talking right now, totally different from who we're gonna be if we're in a party of 10 different people.
I will
But
not talk.
also, in that party of 10 different people, if they're people that we know and we're close to, they're going to be completely different from the people that we don't know.
Hmm.
Or you might not talk at all in a group of with one person that's new, but
Right.
in that group of 10 people that you know, like you're going to be a chatterbox. Like
Yeah, the main
all of
event.
that kind of stuff, like
Yeah, that's true.
it adds up to so much about who somebody is as a person.
Hmm.
And it really
It's very
like
telling.
it is. It's very telling.
Hmm.
So sometimes I can be quite the chatterbox, that's for sure. And I'm not targeting you, Agathon. I might be targeting you. I'm not targeting you, Agathon, okay? But I mean
Oh,
like
I think I forgot to mention that I am not seeing anything on Twitch
oh,
because I.
we totally didn't even. So,
So if I don't know
we
if
had a
anybody
hype
did.
train. We had like bits donated. We had
No, I
dude,
saw the
it's been
bits and stuff.
crazy. Yeah, it's
I
been
saw all the
crazy.
pop-ups. But I haven't seen any comments or anything because I knew that that would throw me off because I'm not accustomed to Twitch.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, sorry. I forgot to mention that. So should
Yeah.
we move into like the kind of the future
Yeah.
thoughts and the closing nonsense? I mean, it'll take a
Yeah.
little while. It's not going to be like a quick wrap up.
That's for sure.
Yeah. So
Um
where are we headed with this?
so moving forward from here, I really feel like this was a really good episode to like introduce people to who we are as people.
Yeah.
So as we really get into like these other like really deep topics, like there's so many bigger topics that we're going to be talking about just other than like our childhood traumas.
Yes.
Like I
Just
really
got to know
feel
where we're
like
coming from to
yeah,
understand our
exactly.
perspectives on it. Yeah. It's
Exactly.
important.
So like I mean like we've said multiple topics we're going to be having. We're going to be having topics about relationships. There's probably going to be
Hmm.
multiple episodes on that. Like relationships, we're going to have healthy relationships, toxic relationships, like how to nurture your relationship. I really want to
Hmm.
go into a lot of like talk about like your emotions and like learning yourself as a person because
Yeah.
anybody that has known me for longer than 6 months can tell you I am a completely fucking different person right now from who I was 6 months ago. 6 months ago
I'm the
I was a
same.
fucking depressed wreck. I
Yep.
literally had a mental breakdown at
Hmm.
one point where I cried for 2 days straight. I was hearing voices. Like, it was not pretty.
Hmm.
So, like, to overcome that and be like who I am today, it took a lot of work. And it still takes a lot of work.
Yeah. Continuous work.
So,
Yep.
yeah. So, I
It's not
really
like
want to.
a one and done thing. It's like a an upkeep.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Very
So, I
important.
really want to get into, like, talking about like what that means, how to discover yourself as a new person. Like literally until
Mm.
my
That's a
last
good way to put it.
relationship, I didn't even know. Like this sounds really weird to put it this way, but I didn't know that I was my own person.
Mm.
I didn't know that like I had like all this stuff going on that I just blocked out and ignored because I had never explored myself as a person. I had never
Hmm.
explored myself to know like what I need to grow, and what I need to do to continue like bettering myself in a sense. So like I really feel very strongly about that, and I really want to have like an episode where we talk about that kind of stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
we're gonna be talking about so much stuff. We really
Yes.
are.
Communication,
Yeah.
the nonverbal communication,
Yeah.
religion,
Oh,
uh,
we're definitely. I'm
culture.
excited for that one.
Yeah, I
Spirituality
am
and
too.
religion is gonna be a tough episode
Yeah.
that I kind of want to
Um,
bring someone in for.
yes. Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yes.
We do anticipate having guests depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Not just like out of a a necessity, but just to bring
Yeah.
someone else on for their perspective.
Absolutely.
Something that we'll be exploring more of. But yeah, we already have quite a lot of ideas for. I have quite a few ideas I haven't
Yeah.
even explored with Siren yet.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, lots of
excited now. I'm
stuff.
really excited now.
Yeah. I think it's all, it's all relative. Even if you're somebody who's never struggled with any kind of disorder or any episodic issue or situational, um, I think that you'd be surprised. That's what I would say. You'd be surprised what you might relate to. And
Yeah. Absolutely.
you know, I know you want to kind of have like a sense of community from this, and eventually we do want to make sure that we pull in resources for people so they can have more information on the topics that we cover, or if they have any questions about it. We're certainly like by no means experts. We
Not at
literally only
all.
have our experiences. I know we mentioned the medical thing that has absolutely no bearing on this. That's
Mm-hmm.
completely unrelated. We are nothing. Okay.
Yes.
We are
Yeah.
normal people, trust me. Just normal people that don't want to sound pretentious. There's a difference.
True that. True that.
Yes. So we're not, nobody's gonna diagnose you. Nobody's gonna tell you what you need to be doing. We're just here to have an open conversation about things and make people feel a little bit more comfy talking about things that are usually very like prickly and scary, and they don't have to be. They absolutely can be for people, when things are feeling super overwhelming. Um, but they can become more comfortable to talk about if you allow them to be.
Yeah. Also, I am an absolute
Speaking of
mess,
resources.
and I totally declined setting up a whole like overlay so that I could show this kind of stuff. So we're just gonna put it over this one because I was
Okay.
just gonna show the links, but I really want to like go through some of this with you guys. So one of the things that I really want to show the importance of is we're not just going to sit here and talk to you guys about like the severity of mental health and all this stuff and just be like, all right, guys, peace, have a good one. I really want to create a safe space for people where you guys have resources to reach out to. If you're feeling like these like depressive episodes or like these problems with like not being able to focus or like things that you know aren't normal or that you feel aren't normal and you just want to look more into, or things that you know that you have and you just need help with. So we're gonna kind of quickly go through this. So I looked up a few websites and I'm actually going to be using a couple of these. So this one's called Turn to Me. This is a website that I am putting in the chat right now. This is a website that it is. I mean, it's a mental health. It's a mental health website. So there's counseling that's actually pretty affordable. That is not £50. I've learned it's €50, which is like $52 translated, which is not bad. If you don't have insurance, like that's not bad for a session.
Yeah.
So it's got affordable counseling, but also like aside from the counseling, like all these support groups off here to the side, like dealing with your grief, tips on how to manage your anxiety. You can see I've already joined that group. You have how to manage low moods. This is another one: friendships, relationships, romantic, platonic, and family. I've also like you know signed up for that one because I mean I plan on us doing an episode about literally that. So I really want to look
Hmm.
into it and learn more about it so that I can better myself as a person, but also so that I can bring you guys more information. Um, so on top of that, there's so many different blogs where people are talking about mental health and mental illnesses. There's stuff with exam stress. I know that school
Mm.
is starting back up, so there's a lot of stuff with exam stresses.
That's a good topic.
Yeah,
Academic pressure.
yeah, that would be a
Yeah.
good show. But like
Write
this
that down. Write that
is
down.
write that down. Write that down. So it has all kinds of information for you. There's groups that you can join. There's chats that you can have. If you just want to talk with a counselor, like chat with a counselor, you can do that instead of doing a voice call or a video call. Like there's so many resources on this one that I myself am going to be getting into as well. Going from there, we have this one, which is called CIMHS.com. It is Center for Interactive Medical Health Solutions. So this one is actually really interesting because this is not paid. This is a free website that is specifically targeting depression. So this is a free 8-session interactive therapy program for depression that you complete on your own. So I know we touched base slightly on like integrating this into like a show or like an episode or something like that where we can like kind of talk through one of the things, but this is
The prompts.
yeah, talk through one of the steps. But this
Mm-hmm.
is a like a self taught, self guided, I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Depression help. So I'm definitely going to be working with this a little bit. I mean like and I don't have very prominent depression right now. I've struggled with depression my whole life and I finally got to a point where it's very manageable for me. So like depression right now is not something that's more on my radar. It's more my ADHD and anxiety, which is great. Um so but I still am going to look into this and I still am going to do those steps because I mean that would be good for anybody to do just a self-help there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one, this is mental. If I can copy that, this is Mental Health America. This is I can't paste apparently. There we go. This is a mental health screening. So if you feel like you may be like struggling with some of these things that we talked about, or struggling with like other things, like we can go here to click see all tests. There's tests about like psychosis, depression, postpartum. I definitely want to have an episode talking about that because that is a scary topic,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's something that needs to be touched on because
Yes.
I don't know a
It's
whole
very
lot about
important.
postpartum depression, but I know that
Unfortunately, the
it's
more you know, the scarier it is.
yeah.
But
But I mean
it's very
it's
relevant. A lot of
yeah,
people go through it that don't even realize that they're going through it, and it can get
absolutely.
so bad that you feel that you don't even care for a child that you just gave birth to.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly difficult topic to cover. It's not the same, but I also kind of along that line, especially as a
I gotta
woman myself.
hydrate, by the way.
Okay, I don't have much left. Um, I would also probably like to dive into at some point physical medical issues,
Yeah,
including IVF and infertility, because that is a
absolutely.
hugely stigmatized topic. And I feel
Endometriosis, all that kind of stuff.
endometriosis,
Oh
yes,
my
all
god.
those
Yeah,
things that people who don't have it, not just like men don't understand, like people who don't go through it,
yeah,
you really don't get it until you can empathize a bit.
yeah.
Um,
Also, all
and
you
I
people
would love to have a
squirming
resource.
at the thought of that kind of stuff, that's the reason
Yeah,
why we want to talk about it. I
yeah,
know there's some people over there going, ew. No, that's why we're going to talk
yeah.
about it. It needs to
And
be
that's
talked
the
about.
other thing is I know some of those, not really some of those, but like the IVF treatment and whatnot can be kind of polarizing for people. Um, Having that background in pharmacy, I do have like a personal
Hmm.
kind of relationship with it, even though I haven't been through it. And I see what effect it has on individuals and relationships,
Yeah.
truly. And I had a personal friend of mine who was struggling through that, as well as endometriosis, a separate person. So yeah, it's sorry. I just wanted to shout
No,
that out because
no,
it is
that's
something
totally
I want to
fine.
talk about, along
Yeah,
with postpartum.
absolutely. But yeah, like we were saying, this is a really good website to like if you feel like you're struggling with something like this. Like I took the ADHD test and I laughed because I was like, "Yep, I scored like an 8 out of 9 on the ADHD test," which which I love also on this website. It doesn't say Like you could get a 9 out of 9, and they're not like, yeah, you have ADHD. You could get, it's like, yeah, you could probably go talk to somebody.
See a
Like
doctor.
this, you
Hmm.
could probably go talk to somebody. So like, it's not gonna be a diagnosis, but
Right.
if you're curious, if you feel like you may have like signs of PTSD, PTSD is like crippling sometimes. But also
Absolutely.
even the more minor side of things, like
Yes.
can still like throw off your day to day. Or like
Yes.
psychosis, depression, like psychosis is definitely another topic I want to get into at some point.
Yeah, same. I
But
also want to mention when it comes to this is just a personal opinion of mine, I guess, but
yeah.
I do feel like it bears some weight. Um, when you are talking about a disorder versus like just a kind of general condition,
Mm-hmm.
um, a disorder is classified as a disorder because it disrupts your kind of daily functioning, right? To some degree. It might be
Yeah.
really bad, it might just be enough to be bothersome.
Mm-hmm.
Just because something isn't a disorder and it doesn't disrupt your life in a great extent, or at least you don't see it that way, or other people don't see it that way,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean it's not something that you can look more into and kind of, like Siren had mentioned, um, learning, not just going to, not that there's anything wrong with this, but not just going to a doctor and saying, I have ADHD, put me on something, please.
Yeah.
You actually learned about the condition and you learned about proactive behaviors and techniques you can use to help yourself manage it, which is, I think, something that we have been, I say, as in, again, that kind of sociocultural era that we're in
We
right
as
now, especially
humanity.
online. Yeah, I think people have started kind of skipping that step and we're going straight from, I'm sad to, medicine, please.
Mm-hmm.
um, Totally fine, valid course of therapy. There are so many other things that you can also do either in conjunction or prior to, and depending
Yeah.
on your level of severity, might actually help you more. So, some that's why I mentioned like some people might be like, "Oh, none of this has anything to do with me." You would be surprised. You really would. Just because it doesn't impact your daily functioning to a great degree, that doesn't mean it's something that you wouldn't benefit from knowing more about yourself with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this kind of stuff is like we could sit here and talk about this all night and still not even scratch the surface on some of this
Yeah.
stuff. But I really feel like some of these things, I really hope that, some of these things could help you guys. I'm definitely going to be posting the link to these in the Discord as well. I'm going to have a channel that I create that I've been putting off specifically for my resource links for specific things because I want you guys to be able to do this kind of stuff. Like whenever I make the whole like cheesy treasure hunter, like we're all hunting for our best life, like that's what we're doing. It's absolutely what we're
Mm.
doing. So I feel very strongly about this kind of stuff, and I feel like Ella feels very strongly about this kind of stuff too, and we really just want to help people with things that we never got help for.
Yeah.
So yeah, huh, this has been a crazy episode. This has been
Yes.
awesome. It's been really awesome. I feel like this was a really good introduction to us as people, and
I agree.
I'm super happy with how this has turned out. You guys have been absolutely fantastic, by the way. You guys have been cheering and gifting subs and subbing like crazy. You guys are absolutely amazing. Like, I appreciate all of you guys so much.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah. It's been absolutely amazing. I really cannot stress enough like the importance that this has. I feel very humbled as well. Like all of this going on and all of this like it's a lot going on. It really is a
Yeah.
lot going on. But I really feel like we all can benefit from talking about this kind of stuff and bringing normality to
Hmm.
these heavy topics. So,
Absolutely. I agree. That's why I'm here.
yeah. I'm going to go ahead and throw a link to the Discord in the chat. If you guys are not in the Discord, please do so because there you'll be able to get updates on all future all future episodes and all of our future topics. And also, we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear what you
Hmm.
guys want to learn more about. What are topics that you guys feel are like uncomfortable to talk about or like stigmatized that like really should be talked about or really should have things like brought to light in that
Hmm.
sense. So, yeah, well, thanks for joining us. We have been Siren and Elle.
Yes, we have.
And I really appreciate all of you guys coming out. So thank you
Yep.
so much for watching. You guys have a great rest of your night.
Yes, absolutely.